Hello, and welcome to another live demo of Automation Ladies. I'm one of your hosts, Nikki Gonzalez, with WinTech USA. I forget to introduce myself at most of these things, but I'm trying to make this better habits. And I am actually going to try to talk very little today. We are transitioning to Ali and Courtney being able to host these demos, especially the tech demos. It makes a lot of sense. You don't need my brand of lots of talking during these things. So they will be running the show this time, but I just wanted to, since I technically am still the admin on this streaming account, going to start the stream for us and just set the stage a little bit. So if you're joining us, that is awesome. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I hope you're having a great Thursday. Go ahead and tell us in the chat if you're joining us, where you're from, who you are, especially if we don't know you. But if you're one of our community members that joins us a lot, of course, we'd love to hear from you. And then my typical spiel is also, hey, make some friends with those that are in the comments. This is meant to be a tech demo, but this is also an introduction to people in our community. And this particular series now leading up to OT SCADACon is going to be featuring technology from our OT SCADACon sponsors that our attendees can win. They can interact with these people at OT SCADACon. Some of them have special offers for us. And because we are vendor agnostic and we don't give our sponsors the opportunity to demo their technology to our attendees or try to sell them across a demo table, we thought this would be a great way to get the hands-on or sort of, actual demos of this technology from our sponsors out to our community. And especially, making it available to everyone that isn't able to attend OT SCADACon as well in person. So that's as much as I have to say today. Stephan, thank you so much for being with us. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. How about you?
And he is joining us from Germany, and it is super late. So thank you for being here.
Right.
And then I would love for Ali and Courtney, you guys maybe introduce yourselves and then take it away.
Ali, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm Ali Gilpin, short Ali G. I'm an automation lady and a bunch of other things. You can do it. Yours, Courtney.
I'm Courtney Fernandez, and I'm going to do this to make Albert happy today. But I am the capybara of industrial automation. And I also like robots, but that's all I have to say about myself today.
Oh, she's wearing it.
And that's Albert. Albert is actually the one that put this in front of me yesterday and said I need to wear it.
As a background, just so people know, capybaras, if you don't know what it is, it's a really big rodent type animal, but it's usually like people give like their puppies or, like animals that are that don't have a mom. Capybaras tend to want to be the mom of that animal. So it's one of the more I would say diplomatic animals. And so I think that's part of why she likes to say that she's a capybara of automation, because she really does, genuinely want to be friends with everybody. She doesn't pick sides. And she's just, overall a nurturing type of person. Whereas me, I'm very Latina and I'm very polarized and I will pick sides. But anyway, I'm really happy that you're wearing this hat. Very on brand.
I hope the rest of the automation ladies team is happy that I'm wearing it today.
But enough about us. We're here today with Stephan, and they're part of Indu-Sol, and obviously that stands for Industrial Solutions. I know people know, or if you don't know, the GmbH is kind of like LLC, I think, in the US. We use LLC as a designation for limited liability, and then they use GmbH, and I won't even try to say anything in German for anyone right now, because that would be a disservice to the German language, which I have a lot of respect for, German engineering. But anyway, Stephan, if you could start, introduce yourself and tell us about kind of your maybe the company you come from and the product, and we'll go from there.
Okay, good. Thank you. So, how you say it? My name is Stephan Breckle. I have been working for the company Indu-Sol since 2006. So it's closely now 20 years, but I'm already in this company or do my job here at this company.
It's not a young company.
No. I was close at the starting point in this company. The company was founded in 2002 by two guys that worked before in another bigger industrial solution company, yeah, and they did a lot of technical sales, and by the technical sales, they find out sometimes the devices switching the green LED to the red LED, and the client called these guys and said, "What happened with your devices? What we can do?" And the first idea, I think all of you knows, the first idea is to replace these devices. Swap the device, and you will see that the LED is swapped as well from red to green, and all people are happy. But this guy bring these devices back to the to the company, and they prove it, what is wrong with the devices, and the company proved these devices and find it out. This device is completely fine. Nothing is broken with this device. This device runs here in the laboratory very, very well. So it was not the device. And the guys talked about it and says, how can it be? We swapped the device, we replaced the device, and after that everything runs well. Yeah. And now you say this device was not the issue. Something else is in this plant, this issue.
Yeah.
And with this idea, yeah, they founded another idea, and the idea was, before you replace devices, you try to do something like measurements, analyzing to find out, is it really device, or is this the field bus, is this the environment, or something else.
Yeah, some kind of
With
diagnostic.
this idea, they created their own, or founded their own company, and this was Indu-Sol GmbH. Yeah.
So it was the product, or the idea was kind of doing the diagnostic on the part before we try to disconnect it and remove it.
Yeah, at the beginning, this was the idea to develop, or the first idea was to resell devices that you can already find on the market, but we get a lot of, how can I say, responses from the client that says, listen, we don't have time for your measurement tools, we don't have money for the measurement tools, we have no knowledge to analyze our system with these measurement tools, but what we really need is something like a services. And so we swapped from this reselling idea from a company to a company that do services like troubleshootings, trainings, commissionings, or support by specification sheets, or support by planning of a new feedback system and network for industrial plant. And by doing this job by our own, we find out the tools that you already find on the market, like an oscilloscope or something like else, is not the right tool that makes this job as easy as possible. And this is why we started to develop our own tools, our own solutions, and nowadays also our own infrastructure components like repeaters, connectors, switches, and so on. Yeah, and today I represent not only Indu-Sol GmbH, I also represent Indu-Sol America, and yeah, this is why also Thomas is here.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting us to this event. And I just perhaps Stephan already mentioned a couple of things, how Indu-Sol got started in Germany like almost 30 years ago. I'm responsible for Indu-Sol America from Atlanta for almost 10 years. But surely my accent is still strong, Ali. So since I live in ATL for 38 years now, I think, working in the industrial automation area. And, since you are all connected to OT SCADAcon, you heard from Stephan, we are working in the OT level, and I think there are many good connections between, for networking, for industrial networking, and for personal networking. So that's why we're here today. And Stephan was so friendly to, tell us a little bit more about the technical parts and show the world, how to avoid pretty much expensive downtime on the OT level. Yeah. And we are happy to be here. And I will be in Houston personally in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to meet you then.
All right. We're looking forward to meeting you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Back to you, Stephan.
Good, thank you, Tom.
So my understanding that you guys kind of have products and software solutions that kind of help bridge the, I mean, I'll fully admit, like I'm a OT engineer that when it comes to network trouble, I have to call like an IT guy and help walk me through what I have messed up because it just doesn't seem to stick for me. But is that kind of where you guys live and thrive, is kind of that bridge between OT and IT?
Yeah,
I call networking IT. But
yeah, this is, I would say nowadays, yes, but you can imagine 20, 30 years ago, nobody spoke about IT or Ethernet in the industrial environment. So it was more a question of CAN bus, DeviceNet, Profibus, Interbus, and so on. And this was simple OT solution, classical field bus solutions. And nowadays, because of digitalization, because MQTT, IoT, and all these things, it's getting more and more connection to the IT world. And nowadays, we are also this kind of bridge, what you said, yeah. But in the past, it was more, yeah, the troubleshooting guys that keep the system running. And nowadays, we are more and more the people that helps and support from the beginning, from the planning phase, over the commissioning till up to keep this system run as long as possible, for sure. Yeah, but also nowadays with our hardware tools, software solutions, and for sure with our knowledge. And I think this is unique for our company. This is why we do business around the world, why we have to travel a lot, because our knowledge is very, very unique in this area. But for sure, because this is normally knowledge that you don't get in your study time. This is more knowledge that you get by experience, and this is, I say, this is very unique for us that we have this experience over this long time ago.
Very intentional.
So in other words, you know, where there are Siemens PLCs, Rockwell PLCs, speaking PROFINET, Ethernet IP, Profibus, you know, wherever there's RZ, so it's the industrial network on the OT floor.
Right.
I do. I see some PROFINET cables and some Profibus cables behind you, and an S7 1200.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was going to ask about what's behind you there, actually. It seems like a nice hodgepodge.
Lots of German stuff.
I was just like, what all could we possibly talk to here?
For sure, I have here some measuring devices. I have a tab. I have something like managed switches. So for sure, because I'm now German-based, so here is more common to use PROFINET and Profibus. Because, but how I say it, PROFINET you can very easily comparable with Ethernet IP. I can also give some hints to Modbus TCP if you like. And Profibus, how I say it, is very comparable with DeviceNet, more or less, more because of the CAN bus background. This is very comparable. So normally, if you can handle Profibus, you can also handle CAN bus and Modbus. If you can handle PROFINET from the technology point of view, then you can also handle Ethernet IP, or you can do troubleshooting in this kind of field bus systems or networks.
What about EtherCAT?
EtherCAT is a little bit different, because EtherCAT looks a little bit like a Ethernet standard, like Ethernet IP or PROFINET. But the interesting thing is, in PROFINET and Ethernet IP, you use the same IEEE standard like Ethernet, and you use the same, let us say, layer 1 area for this kind of communication. But EtherCAT is more something that, like a CAN bus telegram that is present inside the Ethernet environment. So in the end, if you say, now I want to connect my laptop simple to EtherCAT, or my camera or something else, what is very common in Ethernet, you want to connect to EtherCAT, it doesn't work, because you have to capsule this kind of communication. So that means you need a special infrastructure that can handle that can capsule that, when you can transmit it, when you have to uncapsule it. So it's not that open, like, you know, maybe from PROFINET, Ethernet IP, or Modbus TCP.
Okay, thank you.
Anytime. Good.
I feel like I half understood that for a long time, because I know EtherCAT doesn't have everything it needs to be its own like protocol by itself. But thank you for that explanation, because if I understood that correctly, you're basically saying the Ethernet or EtherCAT stuff is data that needs to be in the packet versus
no,
like Ethernet
Ethercat
IP
is
or PROFINET where they are their own.
Yeah, that's right. So normally you have an Ethernet protocol. For example, in Ethernet IP, you use classical TCP and UDP communication. So, but in EtherCAT, you have a special protocol, and the infrastructure can also only handle this kind of special protocol. So you cannot run open Ethernet protocols over the same infrastructure only if the infrastructure can capture that or can handle that. Yeah, let us say it like that.
Honestly, thank you for that. I've never had the right words to understand or describe why I can't just do EtherCAT on a...
I try to explain it as simple as possible, because for sure you can also go deeper and deeper and deeper inside in some kind of speakings. But let us say, give us an overview over all these things, because then it's easy to understand and easy to handle in the future.
So what does that end up looking like? Like if we're gonna... if we can dive into your software, what does it end up looking like when we analyze like a device? Heck yes.
Yeah, this is, let us say it like that. If you run Ethernet IP or PROFINET, normally to analyze the device, or if you analyze how the communication run itself from the PROFINET point of view, then normally you get a diagnostic if something getting wrong. So if your device doesn't communicate, you get a diagnostic. But the diagnostic only tells you the communication doesn't run well. It doesn't tells you what is the reason for. You can only expect this device swap the LED to red. You get in your diagnostic buffer something is wrong on this device. But now is the question, is it the device, or is the communication disturbed by the way to the device? And here it's getting very, very complicated, because normally, how I said, the technology only give you diagnostic information over the devices, but they don't give you information about the network itself, because the standards normally don't think on that. They say you can use your normal Ethernet infrastructure, so all analysis you get from your infrastructure, but that is not true. And this is why I want to show you first some slides in my presentation before we dive in the products, because you will see that we try to keep the product as simple as possible. Everything is in traffic light system, green, yellow, red, and normally you get a very nice pinpoint if something getting wrong. But for sure, you have to understand how the technology works. And this is why I want to show you first, what is important to know about the technology, but for sure only in a small level. Okay, in this case, let us start. Small agenda. I said first we make a small overview about PROFINET and Ethernet. Then I show you how you can integrate some analyzing in your higher level system. That means SCADA or some other visualization systems. Then maybe a few for security standards, because I see already in the OT environment a lot of people speaking about security, and a lot of people want to make a lot of business and money because of that. And I want to only sensible a little bit that you know what is the idea behind that, and that is maybe really needed. And for sure, when I give you a live demo how our products works, and that you get an overview over our solutions. So first of all, because of the wordings, for sure, your PROFINET, your Modbus, TCP, your EtherCAT, your Ethernet IP is just the application that runs on an IEEE Ethernet. Yeah, how I say it more or less, if you think on EtherCAT, so let us say, and this is why we say it here in this presentation, let us speak just over PROFINET and Ethernet IP, because that is very comparable and the standards are very close to each other. And how I say it, the basement is very, very close. And how I say it, in the future, if you think on the IEC 62443, this is an international standard what runs out 2027. So this is what for sure will complete this kind of analyzing of this kind of network. So how I said, first a small overview. For sure, your PROFINET or your Ethernet IP can run in a 100 megabit full duplex communication as well as a gigabit transmission. To keep it as simple as possible, now I want to speak only over 100 megabit per second full duplex, because the most of the IO devices just can handle this kind of communication. 1 gigabit is more for your backbone communication, that means switch communication, and this is why I say it. Keep it as simple as possible. Let us speak just over 100 megabit full duplex communication. That means you have you have 1 cable, 4 cores, and all your devices are connected in that in a line, star, or tree topology. Here, maybe only a just hint. This is why I put ring topology in a clamp. For ring topology, you need a special protocol. For example, in PROFINET, it's MRP, Media Redundancy Protocol. In Ethernet IP is device level ring, and the devices has to support it. If you support it, then you can handle ring topology. If you don't support it, then you cannot handle your system in ring topology. That means if you connect a ring, then your whole system stops. So be aware. Be careful, only if your device supports the ring and the ring is configured, then you can handle this kind of topology. For sure, we have a cyclical deterministic real-time communication. We have different kind of addresses, very common IP and MAC addresses in our Ethernet-based systems. In PROFINET, we have additional addresses like device names for replacing or make, let us say, easy replacement. And everything is organized via update rates or RPIs in Ethernet IP. So how the communication looks like, I tried here to show it with cars and like a street. So this is the benefit of a full duplex transmission, that you can send and receive to the same time over 2 wires. And here's important that you know it's normally not common that you have reflections or that you have collisions, because this is in a normal situation not possible. And this is how I say it. This is that makes 100 megabit full duplex very usable for a deterministic cyclical communication. Good. Only that you know, and this is very important, if you run your OT system and you think on preventive maintenance or maintenance at all, make sure that the device supports some special features. In PROFINET is that not that critical, because normally if you use conformance class B devices, then this device supports SNMP and LNDP. SNMP means Simple Network Management Protocol. That means you can request the device not only for IO information, you can request also the device for vendor information, for firmware information, for security information, if we're speaking in the future more about this kind of features. And LLDP, Link Layer Discovery Protocol, means you can find out which one is your neighbor. This is very important if you want to read out topology information when the devices have to support LLDP. And why I say it like that? Because how I say it, in PROFINET is standardized, in Ethernet IP is not standardized. So if you ask me if I would design nowadays a Ethernet IP plant or network, I would say every time in my specification sheets, all my devices has to be support SNMP and LLDP to make maintenance much more easier. And for sure, in the PROFINET guideline and also in the Rockwell guideline, you will see that tabs are recommended. Tabs means test access point, where you can simply connect your measuring tool to do some analyzing. And this is why I say it also very often. Please think on your test access point. And for all the planning guys that maybe looks to this web session, this is how all OT networks has to be look like, in my opinion. Doesn't matter if it's EtherCAT, PROFINET, Modbus TCP, or Ethernet IP. You have your PSC. After your PSC, you have a test access point for all the analyzing, and after that, you have a managed switch, like all IT guys used. And after this managed switch, you can do what you want, star, ring, line topology with all your IO devices and other infrastructure components. Why I say it like that, because I get very often the question, is managed or unmanaged switches or if managed switches are really needed, is also possible to use unmanaged switch. I would say this is the same discussion like 50 years ago, as the people asked if it's really needed to use a hub or a switch. For sure, you can use a hub in the past and also nowadays, but it's not state of the art anymore. It makes your communication weaker. It makes your whole network weaker. And here's the same with an unmanaged switch.
And less
For
secure.
sure you can use an unmanaged switch, but it
I
doesn't
feel some of our friends out there going, yes, who are very much against unmanaged switches.
And
For security
imagine,
reasons.
there's no people that ask this question if it's necessary to use managed switch, unmanaged switches. Yeah, and for all people that don't know the difference, in unmanaged switches you cannot really configure anything and you cannot read out any statistics. And to this, in the same support session, they asked us, what is with security? Yeah, if you have an unmanaged switch where you cannot do some VLAN configuration or you can switch off some ports, why you will think about security? Yeah, this, in my opinion, it makes no sense. And this is why I said, make sure that you have many switches. That makes maintenance much more easier, and for sure to close security gaps in the future. So, quality values. If you want to analyze your network very easy and very simple, you can do analyzing very in this, it's close to the IT troubleshooting, let us say it like that. Yeah, that means you don't need an oscilloscope. You can read out all information from your office, from your laptop. This is not a problem, but for sure, what the big difference is in an IT environment, normally net load, error frames, and discards is enough. In the cyclical communication, we have also to speak about jitter and missing frames. So let us explain what it means. Jitter. Jitter means the deviation of your configured or planned update rate. So if you configure 2 milliseconds in a deterministic communication, normally you expect every 2 milliseconds IO information. And the jitter explains you, how is your deviation in this case? Yeah, do you run your 2 milliseconds stable, or you have a high deviation of your configured update rate? Only if that you know what could be the reason. The jitter can be positive, that means the information comes too late. The jitter can be negative, that means the information comes too early. Positive jitter, I say every time, is the same. If you get the invitation for a party and you come too late for this party, then for sure it could be traffic. You have a traffic jam. Same in the network. Maybe you have too much net load, you have too much traffic that generates jams, and this is why it comes too late. Or it could be your own issue. Yeah, you needed more time for makeup to get ready or something like that. And here's the same thing. If you have a device issue, for sure, this device can transmit this information too late. That is normally a device issue. And if the information comes too early, here the same thing. If you're thinking on a party, if you come too early for the party, normally the reason is just one, you don't listen in the right way, or it was your issue, you misunderstand something. And here's again the same thing, is a device issue. So if you measure a negative jitter, normally you can say immediately replace the device and everything is gone. Frame gaps, missing frames. How I said, you have a cyclical deterministic communication. So normally every time you get the same information, maybe it's 0, maybe it's 1, but every time it's the same amount of information that's running through your network. And if something is missing, something is wrong. What could be the reason that it's missing? It could be error frames. Yeah, it could be error frames, or it could be discards. Error frames means you have a physical issue, you have a broken frame, you get some reflections. Normally I say every time it's cable, connector, or EMI. And discards means the devices are overloaded, and this is why the devices discard information. Okay. And net load, I think it's clear. It's the amount of packages what you transmit over your system. And if your bandwidth is 100 megabit per second, you have to be sure that you are less than 20% you have all utilization inside your network. For this people that comes from the IT world, in the IT world is something normal, is very common that you have something like 80%. It depends if you look in milliseconds or seconds. So, but because of the cyclical communication, we have just a maximum of 20%. Good, this to the quality values, how you can end or why it's very important to end or why it's important to know these things, because normally you don't want the breakdown and all the plans and all devices aging, and with this quality values is it possible to do preventive maintenance, to get a hint before something happens. But for sure, if you don't analyze your system, if you don't measure, if you don't check the quality values that you already detect inside your network, for sure you can only wait till you get the stop of your plant. And when the most of the people replace devices and hope after that you get back to a running system. But I say every time to the maintenance departments, do you get money or do you get paid because you keep the system running and do really maintenance, or you get money to just swap and replace devices? Yeah, so, and this is what also the management guys have to think about it, for what I will pay my people, just that get time to replace nodes, or if they get time to really do the job in a right way to maintain the plant. Yeah. So, okay, how is it? We do this analyzing with inspectors. These inspectors you can get for different kind of field bus systems like PROFINET and Ethernet IP. All these devices will give you all this information over the web interface. So you don't need additional software. And the biggest benefit, in my opinion, is you need just 24 volts and a bus connection, and then you get directly all information over your system. I will show you in the live session how it looks like, but this is normally all what these devices do. And over the traffic light system, it tells you immediately if everything is right or something is wrong. And for sure, your managed switches, how I said, the benefit of managed switches, you can see normally your utilization, your errors and discards information. If you use, for example, our switches, we have also a permanent cable analyzing and a EMI environment analyzing inside the switch that shows you immediately if all, or permanently, if all cables runs in the right way and if you have some EMI issues in the system. Yeah. And to this software I come later. This is something like a visualization, but how I say it, step by step. Good. How you can put it in a higher level system, like for example WinCC or other SCADA systems. Here I make a small example. How I said, you can read out your managed switch information, and for sure, if you have additional measuring tools, you can also analyze this information. How I said, like jitter, like missing frames, and all these things. How I said, a device that analyzes your application and devices that analyze your network itself. So how it can be looks like, or how you can read out the data. For sure, we support different kind of protocols like SNMP, MQTT, REST API, and OPC UA. I think in the future it's getting more and more important to work over UPC UA, but how I say it, nowadays a lot of OT networks runs with SNMP, and that's in the most of the cases completely enough. Good. How it can be looks like. This is now a hydro plant in Germany, and you see they have a lot of 400 PLCs from Siemens. Yeah, this is where you have different kind of CPs, and this was a real example. They have already Profibus installed, and at the same time they have some PROFINET installation because they are in something like a retrofit running process. So they try to update each part of the plant by time, because it's also for this client too expensive to do a retrofit over all plants, so they do it step by step by step. And here you see now what they did. They installed in all plants our inspector devices, and this inspector devices, how I say it, analyze the system automatically, and they have a digital output, and this is what you see here. This digital output is now configured in the WinCC application, and if now this device detects something and says something is wrong in the system, you can get a hint inside your SCADA system. And here the solution was like that you press on this dot when the software or our visualization software was open, and I come later to it how it can be looks like. But when you see historical information, you see what network has what kind of issue, and if you press on it, you jump normally directly to the topology, and inside the topology you get all information what you need for troubleshooting. But how I say it, I will show you in the live session as well. Or let us do it like that. Only to try something. So I have here now installation inside my system. This is now, how I say, the PROFINET inspector, what you see here in my small presentation rack on my back. And this is now the web interface, what I told you Here you see now the PROFINET inspector, because in Germany it's more common PROFINET as Ethernet IP. So this is why my presentation like say it's just Ethernet PROFINET communication, but how I say it for presentation is doesn't matter. The quality values are completely the same. So now you get the network overview, and how I told you, he will analyze everything automatically. You don't need configuration and parametration, and it shows you here in this table all quality values that are important to know about your network. You see failures, restarts, robot releases, and alerts. Yeah, alerts are something like diagnostic information. Normally, I say for this kind of information, you don't need the inspector. The inspector is more needed for the very typical application issues, how I showed you from the standards, the jitter information, frame gaps, overtaken frames, if you have some device issues and other kind of issues like net load per seconds. So if you see it like that, what you see now here in my presentation, or what I did here on my rack, you see now here we have some frame gaps. How I told you, the reason for frame gaps could be a physical issue when you get error frames, or some logical issue when you get discards. That means the devices are overloaded. So, but at the same time, you see the PSC is still running without of any issues. Sorry, this is because each PLC has an internal watchdog. If you don't hit the watchdog, everything will still running. And for the operator, everything looks nice. This is what I think you don't see it, but on my rack is everything is green. So the PLC is everything works very well. You can run your system without of thinking on maintenance. But already internally, you see we have here some issues. And if you look a little bit deeper, the inspector also read out the managed switch information, and when you see we get directly error frames. And yeah, what I did, I have here a broken cable installed, and this is what you see here. The broken cable just generate a lot of physical reflections. This is why we get error frames. We discard these error frames. This is why we get frame gaps. But for the PLC, because we don't hit the watchdog, everything runs well. And the maintenance can use now this information to troubleshoot the system. And this is what I want to show you on a real example. Well, let us do it step by step. You can do over-analyzing a topology scan. This topology scan can do or can run automatically if you like, or you can say if something is wrong, please do a topology. That you only have the topology if you have some issues, something like that. Depends how you like. So, and this topology, what I show you here, comes from Audi. Yeah, the car manufacturer, this was a simple assembly line, and you see here's the PLC, and a lot of devices connected are here in a huge line topology, and we have some star topologies or star connections on the switches. So what you see as well inside this topology is automatically generated. So this is read out by the running system, and you see some devices are colored yellow, some devices colored green, and some devices are colored red. And what is the idea behind that? This information doesn't come from the devices itself. This information is the information from the inspector, and by the topology scan, we match the topology information and the inspector information together. So what is the benefit? The benefit is now that everything what the inspector says something is wrong in your system, you get located inside your real topology. So you pinpoint it automatically. Yeah, and this is the big benefit. You see immediately if something is wrong and really drop out, it's colored red. And if you have some issues on the line, when it's not that critical that you get a drop off, when it's colored yellow. And how you do now troubleshooting. This is very simple. You can press on statistics. Here you see all kind of issues what you have in your systems. Here in this case, this is why I like this example. You see error frames, how I say it, physical issues, and you see discards, how I say it, overloaded devices. So the most of the typical issues inside an OT network we have here in this example. And now is the question how to troubleshoot this system. Over connection statistic, you see now all devices that, detect something like an airframe, like physical issues, or like a discards, like the logical issues. And let us speak first about the discards, because this is in the most cases harder to solve as a broken cable, like what you have in the most cases by airframes. Discards, how I say it, means the devices are overloaded. Your network has too much traffic. So, and here, how I said, you see all devices that detected this kind of discard or that do this discard. And now is the question, what is the issue? And here I recommend every time searching for the high score, you see, for example, here's a device with 116,000 discarded frames. And now we want to know, where is this device? Is this device, this is the PROFINET name. And you see here the port. And if you press double on it, you jump directly to this device. So this is now a Siemens ET200. And what you see to the same time, you see this device is colored green. So from the inspector point of view, so from the PROFINET point of view, this device is completely fine. And also from the PSC point of view, this device is completely fine. So all devices tells you everything is good with this device, but at the same time, you get the information this device is overloaded and discarded information. And now is the question why. And the reason is simple. This device is, like all Ethernet devices, very smart. Before you discard your own information, you discard the information that once, or that pass through. So that means now this device discard a lot of information, but how I say it, not his own information, only the information that once through. And this is what you see now, or what we can take a look now. This device is located here and is discarding a lot of frames, and all these devices that drops off are these devices here. Yeah. And this is how this kind of solution works. So normally you put in the inspector, how I said, everything works with out of configuration and parametration, and this inspector analyze your system, give you the topology, and then you only have to look inside the topology, where is your issue is pinpointed. So, and for example, how I said, this was a troubleshooting at Audi. The maintenance people needed, something like 1 hour to get a stable situation, because they thought this is this Festo device here, the first device that drops off. At this troubleshooting, they replaced the device, they replaced the cable and connector. I think this is a common use case, but it doesn't solve any problems. And after the inspector, the measurements needed, if I remember right, it was a 5-minute troubleshooting or analyzing. And after that, we find it out directly is line topology and the devices is overloaded. The solution is now not to replace this ET200. How I say, this ET200 is overloaded, but the question is why this device is overloaded and where the traffic is come from. And here, explained in the easy way, this is because of the line topology, and all these devices has to communicate over this trunk line. And this is why this ET200 is overloaded, because it wants too much traffic over all these devices over this ET200. And over the time, this device will age and will discarding more and more information. The maintenance people told us this plant runs over 1 year without of any issues. And after 1 year, it started with sporadic issue, and some devices here in this line topology drops off, and it was acknowledgeable after that they still have production, and it was never possible to pinpoint this issue. But how I said, in the end, this was just the line topology. We changed the configuration over the RPI and the update rates, and we changed a little bit topology more to a tree topology and not in that big line topology. And after that, this issue was solved. Yeah. And how I say, the same with if you have a physical issue like a broken cable, this is what I can show you in this topology as well. Here you see airframes. How I say it, airframes means every time you have a physical issue. And if you pressed, for example, here also on the high score, when you see this is this, switching cabinet here, this switching cabinet is a KUKA robot. And now was the question, what is the issue on this KUKA robot? Why it's possible to have physical issues? The reasons are simple. It could be the cable because of the movement, or it's because of EMI, because each robot has an inverter inside that for sure generates, yeah, depends a little bit, but in most cases it generates some current that runs through your system, and this was here the problem as well. It was just an EMI issue because of the wrong motor cable. Yeah, but this is how you can do analyzing and troubleshooting very simple with our solution. How I say it, normally you, yeah, just connect the device, you get the information. If you have a Ethernet or PROFINET issue, or you have just a simple device issue, all issues you get written here in this alert list, where you see what kind of device, what is the issue, what is the date. And if you really want to do deep analysis, you get also a Wireshark snapshot where you can do really frame analyzing. But let us say 2 words for the most of the maintenance guys is that too much, and also for the most of the troubleshooting what you do is too much, because how I say it, you press on analyzing, you download the topology, and then inside the topology is everything pinpointed, what kind of issues do you have. Yeah, and also, for example, because the recommendation is that you have all devices every time on the same firmware version, or on the for sure the newest firmware version. This is what you can check very simple here in the version statistics as well. So for all these people that have to do asset management in the future, they can do it as well with this solution. Good. This is how I say it, one kind of our solution. Other solution is the software PROmanage, what you see here, or what you saw here in my presentation. The software PROmanage is now the same idea, but it's analyzed your system automatically. Here you see now the software PROmanage. What PROmanage do? PROmanage is something like a OPC-UA or SNMP agent. It collects all the information from devices that are supported in one visualization. So what devices are supported? For sure, all our measuring tools are supported, and all our managed switches. Doesn't matter if you have Cisco, if you have Allen Bradley, if you have Siemens, if you have Helmholtz, and whatever. All switches are supported, and for sure our switches as well. And you can analyze the systems completely vendor-free with this software. Why it's so often needed? Because for sure your IT do the same thing from the DMZ and a little bit down. Let us say it like that. But normally it stops at your IIT or Hall network or SCADA network, because normally the IT guys don't want to do a 24/7 maintenance or support for this kind of field installations. And for sure, all solutions normally stops at the PLC, and no solutions really analyze things underneath the PLC. And this is why we said we need something that do the same analyzing what you normally know from Cisco and from the IT area to analyze your network automatically. And this is why we developed PROmanage to be vendor-free, and for sure to go deeper or behind the PLC, that you get the asset analyzing underneath the PLC. And this was the idea. And this is what you see here. Now the PROmanage analyzes the system every minute, and you get something like a live status. And here you see till this point, till 6:00 p.m., everything runs well. After that, I installed my broken cable here, and now you see it's starting immediately with some issues in the system. And this is what you see here as well. You see we have some frame gaps here in the system, so something is missing. And you see here in the live list directly what kind of device it is connected to this kind of issue. And how I said, you can also read out the topology. The same thing what you saw from the inspector, because now it's automatically updated with PROmanage. And this is what you see here now on this VPA device. You see we have this frame gaps, and how I say these frame gaps are now because of my bad cabling. So, and normally if you look here, you see also we have this frame gaps directly on the device. And I think on the switch, depends now if the, okay, my broken cable was not strong enough, but normally if you it's strong enough, when you also get some issues on the switch, but here it was not strong enough, but in the end it's the same information, but you see it now only from the VPAR device. Good, but this is normally the idea now from PROManage to get an overview over the whole system automatically analyzed, that you don't have to look in each inspector, in each managed switch, that you don't have to do it by your own. You can run it automatically, cyclically, in real time, automatically, and you get all information in one visualization. And the idea is normally, how I say it, that you install it directly after the PSC. Yeah, this is what you see here, that you have for the whole maintenance guys analyzing from the SCADA network, from the IIT network or Hall network, depends how you describe it. And for sure, you get all information from your OT asset, doesn't matter what kind of installation do you have. And this is, how I say it, our kind of solution to keep troubleshooting and analyzing in an OT network as simple as possible.
Well, in true German fashion, you have been extremely thorough. I do have some questions. Is INspektor a device or a software?
Yeah, good question. The PROFINET INspektor is a device. Yeah.
Okay.
How I say it, normally you don't need software to do your analyzing, because it's once completely web-based.
Beautiful.
So it's normally enough that you have a browser and you can read it out with your smartphone. We have Amazon that reads out with the tablet, and so on and so on. But if you want to read out the topology, in this case, you need a software. This software is called ProScan Active, but you can use the how can I say, the demo version or free version, the viewer version, to get this information and to read out this information. This is possible. Yeah, and this is what you can do when in your office, or you don't have to do it on site. Let us say it like that.
Looks like we have a question. Would you be able to share? Would you be able to share the test file you demonstrated in ProScan Active?
This is a good question, because how I said, it was a real example from Audi.
So probably
I
not.
Don't know. So I think it's maybe not possible to share it. But yeah, because how I said, I know that I can show that, but I don't know if I can share it. But I can give you from my presentation like the same kind of analyzing. So this is possible that I send you a demo file from MyGreg where you see the same kind of issues, more or less, that you can use to do your analyzing by your own, because how I said, with this file you can use the view version from our software. This is for free, and then you can do your first analyzing by your own inside or on your PC.
Thank you. My other question was, I see some of these softwares and they're device based. What is your pricing like? Like, is it depend on just the device, or do you need, if you're trying to do, a specific amount of devices that you're monitoring, what is that pricing?
Does it scale?
Based off of?
Yeah.
So let us say, for the pricing, the Thomas would be the better guy to answer it.
Well,
but let us say it like that.
Do you want dollar prices, or do you just want to get an idea?
Just to get an idea. Yeah. Is it based off of the amount of devices? So if you have thousands of devices, is it more money?
Good question. No. So again, the inspector is hardware. Yeah. Okay. And so one inspector, one price.
Nice.
The size of the inspector is like the size of 2 fists close to each other. Yeah. So it's like the size of a. Do what?
Is there a device limit for one inspector?
No. Up to not Stefan. With PROFINET 2, it's unlimited.
From the analyzing device is completely unlimited. Yeah, it's really unlimited.
Yeah.
And we have, for example, at Continental, we have devices that runs over 10 years in a condition monitoring system. So normally you don't have a time limitation and you don't have a device limitation. But for sure, the tool analyze one application. So that means if you have a PLC that have one CP, and on this CP you have one application like PROFINET, then you can analyze this whole application with one inspector.
Wow.
But if
Okay.
this PLC, or if you have a second PLC, then you need for the second PLC an inspector as well, because this PLC has their own asset and their own communication. So this is why you normally, I say, for each PLC you need one inspector, and this is why normally also PROManage getting from interest over the time, because if I see it in Audi Mexico, for example, we have on one plant or on one installation something like 80 inspectors, and these 80 inspectors you don't want analyzed by their own. You want to analyze it automatically, and only if one inspector says something is wrong, then you want to do a deep dive. But till this moment you say everything runs well, everything is green, I don't care about my networks today.
So but then that's where you
can sorry,
I need to finish to answer your question. So what Stephan is saying, when you use PROManage, if you have 10 inspectors and 20 switches, there is a tiered pricing, but it's not a subscription. So there's one price what fits, and then ProScan Active, so the topology software, if you use it on your own because you just are curious about your network, there is a fee for. But if you use the topology software with the inspector, then the software is embedded for free into the inspector. So there are no subscriptions at all.
We got a question from Albert. Does it have a syslog collector? So system log collector?
Yes and no. Let us say it like that. All information that we collect with PROManage is via SNMP or OPC-UA. So if the device is supported, we analyze everything. So for sure, if you have, for example, now a managed switch and you want to see what's happened on this managed switch, something like something is connected or something is disconnected, a port is in use or something like that, all these things are collected. This is possible. And everything what's run internally in the device, like PROManage or ProScan Active, and also the inspectors, everything has also a log file that you can read out every time. This is not a problem.
Okay. We got Ben Black saying hello, everyone. I'm trying to remember my old question.
Pricing.
Oh yeah, no, it is pricing related, because you have switches, and I imagine that your managed switches are a lot more competitive than what we're used to seeing. Maybe not, but just because you're not really driving everything based off of software as much as you're driving. It seems like you're driving your model on hardware, because you're trying to sell hardware. More than you're trying to sell software, but maybe that's not true. But like what and we just need like ballpark, and then also what affects that. Like obviously, if we can get people to buy more, then maybe you can give us price breaks based off of us needing several inspectors or several managed devices. Like talk about that.
They're always price breaks. So and discounts, and I'm sure you're cutting this out for later. But no, when Stephan is going to talk about the switches, so our managed switches have the same features like competitors' managed switches, but we also, because we are coming from the predictive maintenance, from the condition monitoring expertise, we build in predictive maintenance features into the switch, into each port. And this is where Stephan was talking about, that we measure the leakage current per cable, per port, and we measure the cable quality per cable, per port. So
Wow.
we have many customers who buy our IP67 switch because they are often used around robots. Yeah, and you know there's a lot of action around robots.
Yep.
So now here you can see all cables or most of the cables are in good quality, and you want to know in advance when the cable quality is degrading before there's no data going through or before there are interruptions. So this is the cool part. The other interesting thing is too, if there are certain features missing or a certain size does not fit the panel, we are very flexible. We have many customers where we do custom switch manufacturing for. You know, surely not for 10 switches, but we are very flexible.
Sure.
But the big kicker is the advantage of those diagnostic features, which also can be embedded and managed by the inspector. So you really have everything in one place, your whole predictive maintenance, your condition monitoring, your troubleshooting, all in one place. Right, Stefan? Makes sense?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah, that
beautiful
makes
product.
sense. And what we are also, the problem what we have in the most cases, the people don't know Indu-Sol. Yeah, so you don't have a brand like Siemens or like Cisco, so you cannot say normally you have a new product on the market and all people running to this product. So it's more that you have to say, or you need some benefits to convince the people. And how
Money.
Thomas said, we are more from the diagnostic point of view, so we have additional diagnostic in our infrastructure components. But I can also give for all planning and designing people, we have also a lot of more performance internal in the devices. So if you want to make a comparison by your own, do it, take the data sheets, compare data throughput, backplane capacity, and you will see we counter a lot of other vendors on the market because, how I said, we need some benefits, and these benefits you get for a very nice price already because, how I said, we have to convince the people or convince the market.
Yeah, and when you ask for a price, the IP67 switch with 10 ports is in the $1,000 range. Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
the pricing is competitive and there is a real advantage.
That's excellent. We have one last question before we close out for the day. Then Ben Black wants to know, what's the operating temperature range of the switches?
This is a good question. I hope I have it in the mind, but normally it's something like -20
He's
till
in
up
Atlanta.
plus. Yeah, so I would say you can run it in South Carolina. This is not a problem. So, but yeah, normally, how I said, we have devices that runs by extremely heat at Continental, where you have the hot tires that runs on the roof, and where you have our switches installed, and we have some cooling stations also here in Germany where our switches runs. So, and how I said, if you have a really special use case that you say, yeah, -20 is not enough, we need some much less temperature or we
For our
need it
friends in
for much
Canada.
less temperature, we can develop it. Yeah, we have to please keep in touch with us. How I said, we do a lot of customization with our switches for special kind of installations and vendors. So get in touch with us. We can do a lot, but for sure we have to know the need and we have to speak about it.
So what's the best way to get in touch with you guys?
So yeah, so I am again in Atlanta, so I'm pretty simple to be reached at tk@indusolamerica.com, or you can see my name on LinkedIn and reach us there, or in a couple of weeks in Houston.
Perfect. So your preferred is email or LinkedIn?
Yeah, we don't mind being emailed.
Excellent.
We'll call back.
Right on.
All
We have a
right.
live answering on the phone, so we don't have a voicemail on our phone system.
Okay,
That's
well,
fair. I think a lot of people, you know, now that we're getting into doing webinars and learning things on YouTube University, at least from my end, I feel that I'm more prone to reach out to the person in the video anyway and try to find them on LinkedIn. So
Yep. Awesome.
Appreciate this talk you guys gave. I honestly feel a little bit more like I understand a little bit more about PROFINET now.
But again, the same applies to Ethernet IP. So the same rules, what we talked about, apply to Ethernet IP as well.
Yeah.
And if you need more information, how I say it, normally you have a free support. Also, if you need more information about the technology, we can do anytime web sessions and can speak about it. That's not a problem. So just keep in touch with us. We normally likes to share our knowledge, and we want to be a knowledge partner. This is what normally we try. We just want to sell simple devices because this is what can everyone do. We really try to find or try to build up partnerships with our clients, and how I say it, we want to be your OT network knowledge people that you can ask anytime for any kind of questions.
The go-to guys.
Perfect. Well, I'll say if Mr. Grolmus over here is vouching for you as the best field bus expert, then I think that we will take him at his word. I really appreciate you guys coming on to do this. And thank you for working with us, ladies, as we're figuring our way forward through these demos. I think it was great to not have 6 people crowded on the screen, or 5 in this case. Allie's computer just died. So she said, thank you so much. She had a great time.
Thank you also for the invitation in this time.
But I think it's, just about time for us to end. So your contact information there is on the screen. I encourage everybody that watched this, and if you watch the recording later, connect with these guys on LinkedIn. This is the type of expertise that you want in your network. Even if you don't have a need for any of this right now, you know that this is going to come up for yourself or a customer sometime in the future, and you want to have their contact info handy. And if you guys are, in Atlanta, that's where you guys are based. Maybe you can meet up. Come to OT SCADACon if you get a chance. I'm sure hopefully we'll have you guys in our community for a long time to come. And then catch us at SPS in Atlanta in September, who is graciously sponsoring the show up until September. And I will try to throw there. I was trying not to have the logo there when all of us were in the middle of somebody's face. But as we sign off, you'll see a short little video, not of SPS Atlanta, because it has never happened before. It is brand new, but from SPS in Nuremberg, which I think is, well known to everybody in Europe. And most of us here in the US have heard of SPS and probably have thought to ourselves, wish we could go. Well, now is your opportunity. And if you have a use case or an opportunity to work with these guys and you're going to be in Atlanta for SPS, then hit them up. Thomas, do you have any plans of walking the show, or at least, are you going to be around?
We have a booth. We have a booth there.
Excellent.
Yeah, we'll meet you there as well in person.
All right. Well, then we will see you there as well. And if you don't make it to OT SCADACon, try to make it to SPS. And if you can't do that, then there is always the online space. So thank you guys very much. Have a great rest of your Thursday.
Thank you very much.
And we hope to see you next week for another live demo on the Automation Ladies. Bye.